Welcome, everybody, to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest-running sales training podcast in the history of podcasts. My name is Bryan Neal.
My name is Bill Caskey.
Here every week for your listening enjoyment. Last show of the year, kids. Last show of the year, December 23rd. Hope everyone's been good. Hope nobody's on the naughty list. And hope you finished your year strong. We're going to talk about some reflection. We're going to do some reflecting today. But, hey, what a great time to start something new in the new year. The Insider program is available for you to join starting in January. There's no reason for you to not do that. It's the best bang for your buck you're going to get in any sales coaching program ever. AdvancedSellingPodcast.com/insider. Check it out. Live coaching from my friend Bill. So,
yep. Thank you.
Join it.
Got a good lineup for the first quarter. I just did the content, and it should be up on that site. So if you're interested in what exactly are we going to be instructing and teaching on, it's all on that site. At least the first 2 months are, and we'll be posting the rest of it too. But yeah, we're going to do something interesting in January. It's a little bit different approach, and it'll be there. So I'll tease that out.
There you go.
I'll let you go there and see it. Well, speaking of reflections, I don't know how to transition into this, but when we record, I'm always thinking before we record, okay, what has happened to me in the last week? Any funny situations? Because we always do that at the first of the episode. And I was listening to a podcast this morning as I was working out. The guy said something about, if you're listening to podcast, a lot of people listen to my podcast when they're washing the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, washing the dishes, how much time do most of us spend today washing the dishes? I may wash off some things before I put it in the dishwasher, but I'm not really standing there for minutes, 30, 45 minutes. You too, or is that?
I can't even go here. I don't do anything around our house. It's just, I just don't. And occasionally I'll do the dishes. And then it's a whole can of worms, though. And I'll load the dishwasher. Same deal. Scrape them off as quickly as I can.
Yep.
And put them in the dishwasher. And I inevitably load the dishwasher incorrectly. And my partner, who I love dearly, Steph, comes behind me. Now she waits until I leave.
Oh, yeah.
And then she reopens it and reorganizes the dishwasher.
Over the shoulder. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I would say, let's pretend I did that, that if we eat at home 3 nights a week, it would take me, that total time would be maybe 20 minutes total, maybe.
Over 3 nights.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 7-minute process.
I bet it wouldn't take.
No, not even, over 3 nights.
You're not feeding a family of 7. I mean, it's.
Well, we are, but they're all in college now. That's it.
Oh, they're all back. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Well, I was thinking about that. And then I thought about, that's one of those nostalgic things. Like I remember when I was growing up, my mom used to wash and I would dry, I would help out. And then I started thinking about other nostalgic things that, kind of happened in my life. And one was the whole rest stop thing, where you'd be traveling and your mom, and this may not have happened to you because you had to be kind of lower class to do this, like we were.
Because I was high class.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
And my mom would pack, lunches, and then we go to Michigan, and then we'd stop in, wherever, South Bend, and stop at the rest stop, and picnic tables, and it wasn't like the rest stops of today where there's like everything's concrete. There's petting zoos and stuff like that now. And then I told. And I thought, and then if my dad, if we didn't get enough food, my dad would go off and get his gun and go off and hunt and try to find a lamb to bring back and fillet, which is so far from the truth. I mean, we weren't a shooting family. And then I told Jane, I said, I'm thinking about going that direction. She goes, don't do the dad shooting a raccoon or a lamb. I mean, what are you going there for? I'm like, because it's so absurd, because that's the idea. And so then we got into a discussion on, well, what is your brand? Are you branding yourself as some senile old man who only can talk about the past?
What is your brand?
And I said, it's the juxtaposition brand. It's the senile old man that knows the hell out of AI and prompt engineering. And so
there's a great Saturday Night Live skit where there's an army platoon that's preparing their thing, and there's a prospector that's Will Ferrell, he plays at like an 1800s gold prospector who's in the room with them. And he basically breaks the entire cast. You should look it up, where Will Ferrell playing Prospector on Saturday Night Live. It's hilarious. 2 more comments. First to the dishes. This another, we can talk about this later. How many? So if you have 12 dishes at the end of your dinner prep, everything else, why is it that of the 12, only 3 are dishwasher safe in 2024, and 9 of them can't go in the dishwasher?
What?
Wooden spoons can't go in the dishwasher. Pans can't go in the dishwasher. That can't go in the dishwasher because it's hand painted. I'm like, why do we even have a dishwasher then? Like, what is the point? And everyone listening knows what I'm talking about. Drives me absolutely crazy.
And oh, go ahead. No.
Last thing on the nostalgic thing, and this is great. Do you follow Stephanie Stuckey?
No.
On LinkedIn?
No.
Everyone should follow Stephanie Stuckey. She is revitalizing her family's brand, Stuckey's. She's an attorney. She's in Atlanta, and Stuckey's basically withered away to nothing. And she had this, epiphany a few years ago. Like, you know what? I'm going to rebuild my family's brand. And she's on a mission doing that. And she is phenomenal on social media and is rebuilding the Stuckey's brand in 2024.
Oh, that's awesome.
She'd be a great guest on the podcast. She's got great energy. Stephanie Stuckey.
Yeah.
Love following her. And then, because my grandparents would always bring home a log roll.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
A cheese roll?
No, a log roll, pecan log roll with the nougat.
Pecan, okay.
Yeah. And when they went to Florida, they drive home, and then I knew my grandparents were on vacation. I'm like, oh, I get a Stuckey's log roll, pecan log roll, I think it's called. And it was just so nostalgic. And I would look and it would be in the fridge. I'm like, oh, yes, I get a bite of pecan log roll.
Well, was it Stuckey's that had the cheese roll that had pecans and had nuts?
Could be.
On the outside? I remember.
There was another one too. The other one was not Pepperidge Farms. It was, it was in all the malls and it had a red. It was like a house built in the mall. Remember what I'm talking about there? And it almost like a Swiss sort of feel, or
that could have been it.
Fact checker Doug, where are you? Doug Drozen, we're pulling you out of the archives, dude.
Passed on from this.
What? He's so done with us. Anyway.
The whole thing with dishwasher for me. Then we'll get to our topic.
Exactly,
dishwasher topic. We could go forever on it.
We're losing listeners.
I always feel like, okay, I'm rinsing off before I put them in the dishwasher. I'm very close to just drying them off and
totally
because I've already scrubbed like hell to get the stuff out. I'm scrubbing harder than the dishwasher.
You are. I'm telling you.
So why am I not? And I do this sometimes, and then Jane will come by and she'll feel the dish. Goes, this is still wet. It's
still like a little thing. Some smegma over here. And then Steph gets so mad when the dishwasher doesn't. After cleaning it, like you're saying, then she puts it in, then takes it out, and it still isn't clean enough. She's like, anyway, we just got a new dishwasher, by the way. Ran it for the first time Saturday or Sunday.
What a coincidence.
Isn't that funny?
We would be
anyway. Wow, that was a rant.
That wasn't a rant.
Let's go to reflections.
It's a holiday, so.
It is. So it's December 23rd, and you're about ready to head into holidays, and everyone's got different family things, but there's a really nice little chunk of time here to reflect. And Bill and I thought, let's do a little, both a how to reflect episode, but also maybe some of our own reflections. As we, move through this time period where the work kind of slows down, you have some space. There's not a lot of business being transacted, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you get a little breather here to just reflect and think about your life backwards.
Great time to do it.
Think about what you did there. And if you're one of those companies or salespeople that's I'm going to sprint to the end, I'm going to be doing, chasing deals December 31st, you might want to reflect on that. There's probably a better way to do that. Will be my guess. Anyway, so what's your first thought there, Bill? The reflection.
Well, I've got a few things written down here, like what to reflect on. And one thing, I think it's always good to look back and say what worked and what didn't work in 2024. And if you are in the mode of trying things, like maybe trying LinkedIn video or trying webinars or introducing a podcast or just calling on a different kind of customer, I think it's good to go back and just put up a table or a doc on Google and just write down what worked and what didn't. And
it's really good.
I think what we find sometimes is things are not working, but we never stop doing them because we never reflect and say, you know what, I've been running this webinar for the last year and a half and I've not gotten one client from it. What the hell am I doing with it? Why do I keep doing it? And then you can just cross it off and that opens up space for you to do some of the things that work. But I'm going to do that this week or next week and just just start with a blank piece of paper with a column, 2 columns, one what worked, one what didn't.
That's great. Just what it is what it is. Not get all bent out of shape.
No shame.
Right?
No,
yeah. Or no, like puffing your chest. Like, look at me, I'm awesome. This was, it's like, I love that. One thing that I think this is similar, maybe different. I don't know. This is a Dan Sullivan thing. Dan Sullivan talks about, but it's a slightly different than what Bill said. Dan Sullivan, he teased this up. I just did this in a talk to a client last week. He says, how many of you have seen the horizon? Everyone raises their hand. And they go, how many of you have actually been to the horizon that you see? He's like, no, it's obviously on purpose. You can't get there. And what he says is a lot of like a business owner, achiever people, salespeople are always chasing the horizon without looking backward. So he teaches this idea called measuring backward. The measure's the key point. We're in the process, kind of nerdy. We're doing like a blind zebra archive room of like all this, and Steph was going back looking at some old things that we did. And she's like, it's amazing to think of where we were to where we are when you measure backward in all things. You think of like number of clients, think about number of episodes, think about your podcast, think about your brand, think about Insider. So look at actually looking backwards and saying, boy, I've come a long way. Yeah. I've come a really long way. It's a really good
for the soul.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we get fixated on the horizon and we have both eyes focused, and sometimes it's nice to have I think it was Sullivan that talked about double vision. I want to have one eye on the future, but I want to have one eye on the past.
Yeah. Yeah. And reflect on all things, even like think your family. Bill, you get grown kids now and they're out and they're parents now. Yeah. I mean, that is such a gift that you've given those kids to be great parents now and then pass it on to their kids. Just things like that. I think we just sort of take for granted too often instead of thinking about it.
One daughter's pretty good. The other.
Oh, geez. Now we're in trouble. It's the one that doesn't listen. That's why.
Oh, that's right. I've got to do a shout out to, shout out to one of Kara's friends, Shelby in Colorado. Kara was out. She was down in Florida. They met down there, and Shelby had our podcast right on her phone.
Well, looky there.
And Kara, not so much for my daughters, but Shelby. So shout out. I told her I'd do a shout out. So
hi, Shelby. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Okay. So we got 2 there that are similar.
Yeah.
I've got one here, which is, and this is something we covered it's a point of reflection. We covered it in the business planning session. And that is, what are the assets that you're sitting on that you have in your possession? I'm not talking about going out and buying assets. And by assets, I mean things that you can bring to bear to grow your business. Mm-hmm. So one example of that I always give is the email list. You've got people, maybe 100, maybe 500, maybe 50,000 on a list somewhere of people that your strategic partners, maybe customers, maybe prospects, people you've quoted. Somewhere there's a list of those people. Those people who know you probably are good prospects at some point, or they're good referral sources. Are you sending out something on a periodic basis to those people? Mm-hmm. And most aren't. Most leave it up to their marketing department to send out marketing crap, and they don't. You're the brand here, so you've made these relationships and acquaintances. What are you sending each week or each month? Definitely more frequently than each month, doesn't have to be every week, to those people. Mm-hmm. And that would be an asset. That list is an asset. Somewhere in that asset lives $100,000 of personal income.
Yes.
You don't know where it is, but it's there. And if we don't see those things as assets, we will never bring them up, tap into them, and leverage them.
That's so true, isn't it? It's like seeing the FedEx arrow in the logo. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
This reflection exercise, everyone, you don't even realize this. Like, everyone has contacts in their phone. Even if it's not your email list, like you and I would think, like we have a subscriber email list, just your contacts in your phone. I mean, just think of how many thousands, just look at how many contacts you have in your phone. You know what I mean? That's an asset. People don't think of it that way, do they?
And it's an asset because you could say, well, yeah, but those are friends, or those are acquaintances, or those are people that I've worked off and on with. But everybody's life changes so quickly today that the Bryan Neal of January might be different than the Bryan Neal of June of the same year. And so if I reach out to that list in January, I might get 3. If I reach out in June, I might get 3 people who weren't the first 3.
Yes.
So you just don't know. You just don't know. So things change. Good. So keep in mind, assets are important. Okay.
I love it. My next one is to have you reflect on your, let's call it a joy scale of your job. I think everyone should at this time of year, as you're heading into a new year, saying, because there are a lot of people I think that grind really hard. I'm one of them. And I think it's really important to sit and go, okay, what is all this for? You know what I mean? What are we doing here? And I think, and now I love what I do. Both my jobs. I love it. I just love it. It's not perfect, but I love it. And a lot of people I work with don't.
Right.
And I think it's a really good reflection point. And then this time and day, the opportunities to do other things are like never before.
That's right.
Our parents, both my parents, even though we were upper class compared to you, which is funny because my stepdad worked in a factory and my mom was a secretary, hourly workers both. But they made their way.
You eat pickle loaf or ham loaf when you the rest?
We had both. We had both. Absolutely disgusting. Although Steph and I did have fried bologna sandwich the other night. Fried bologna.
It's a nostalgia thing.
It's a nostalgia thing, and it's I don't know if it's a Midwestern. Yeah, and did you score it so it didn't bubble up?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if people know this. Is that an Indiana thing or a Midwest? I don't know.
70s
scoring it is 70s. Yeah. So in the little skillet that said it. But our parents worked for years at places. You know what I mean? My stepdad worked for 40 years in a factory, never missed a day of work. My mom worked 29 years at Alcoa. She was in the office, but at an aluminum plant. And these days, oh my gosh, you can work anywhere for anyone, just about any time, in any way you want. It's almost like too big. So if you're not joyful as you do your reflection in your work, I think it's a really great time to go, you know what? 25 is my year.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a switch. Yeah. That's mine.
What percent of people, joy is kind of one of those spectrum things.
Yeah.
Either or, but what percent of people do you suspect, given your experience working with people, are not full of joy at their work? Or I also wrote down the word fulfilled. Are you fulfilled? Sometimes work is not joyful, but it can be fulfilling, even though it's painful. What percent do you think are and aren't?
I'm going to go that are not. I feel like I'm on Card Sharks. I'm going to go the worst nostalgia episode, Card Sharks, one of the greatest game shows ever, Card Sharks. I'm going to go actually lower than you might think. I'm going to go about 20% are not joyful. 80% of people actually are. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're high on that.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers are Gallup or Walker or somebody does polling every year, and it's usually between 50 and 60 are relatively unsatisfied or very unsatisfied with their work. So but that's, again, our selection is people whose owners invest money in their training. So that's probably you're probably getting people who are a lot more joyful and fulfilled because that's who they work for.
Yes, they're in places where that's better. Yeah, it's good. Got another one there?
Well, that was my last one. Was are you fulfilled? And
good.
Taking stock of those areas, I think that you can be unfulfilled. You can be fulfilled in your job, but there's still areas that you're unfulfilled. Like making cold calls would not be fulfilling for me, or filling out expense reports would not be fulfilling. Or, I mean, I don't do too much today that's not, but you have to offload those things, because if not, you'll either not do them, and maybe they need to be done, or you'll do them really in a not very effective manner.
Yes, right.
So what part of your job or your career or your business is unfulfilling? And I know Sullivan, I think, does a document like that too.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing to look at, because maybe you can outsource some of that. Maybe you can, like if you don't like shooting video, but you need to shoot video, maybe you batch it and you spend 3 hours a month, you do it all at once, and that way you don't have to touch it again, or something like that. I think there's ways to get around some of that.
Yes. I love I didn't think about that. drilling a level deeper, not just am I fulfilled at my job? It's what elements of my job are fulfilling and what are not then.
Yeah.
That's a really good tactical exercise to do in your reflection work this week. So,
okay. Well, that's all we got. We wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. We are blessed that you have been with us on the journey here in 2024, and we anticipate, hopefully you'll be with us next year. We don't plan on changing things. We don't, I'll say it now. We don't have a lot of guests on, and you know that, because this business, this podcast business, is kind of a cousin to the businesses that we run. And so to find guests and to go through that whole process sometimes can be kind of tough, because you're now trying to coordinate 2 or 3 or 4 schedules. And so hopefully you like what we're giving you, and hopefully we'll get emails and get comments on LinkedIn that you appreciate the tactics and the strategies that we give you. So there'll be more of that in 2025.
We love that. And we do get pitched guests, don't we? About 4 a week. Oh my goodness. We should do an episode on how to pitch a guest to a podcast show.
How not to.
That's a broken process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Happy New Year, everybody. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year.
Bye.
Cheers.